What's going on, everybody? Cali Death Podcast back once again, episode 95. Always here on a Thursday for you. My name's Anthony. If you're new to this channel or new to our Twitch, what up to the Twitch guys that are going to be here in the chat? Always here with my resident homies, Joel and Casey. We're going to see the Professor Joseph around 7 something. He's going to be here. So, yeah, dudes, we're here, and we got another big one for you guys. A legend, another legend we get to add to the list. We got Paul Mazurkiewicz from Cannibal Corpse, Heaven's Gate, and Umbilicus. What's going on, Paul?
Not much, man. Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Dude. Thank you for gracing us with your presence, like I had said pre-pod, and it's just really cool that we get to be able to talk to some guys like you now. You know, doing this for as long as that we've been doing it, and yeah, dude, thank you so much. Let's do some plugs real quick. What Cali Death Podcast Big Car. Oh no, we don't even have anything on there. What am I talking about? We got
we're sold out.
battleforgecoffee.com, Homies and Deeds of Flesh. Actually, we'll talk about that because they opened up for you guys at one point too. They got a coffee company now, Paul. So you got death metal dudes doing coffee now. It's pretty awesome, right?
Amazing, isn't it? Incredible.
It is, dude. And you had to have a little bit of coffee to perk yourself up for this one right now. So.
I had to have a late night cup, which I'm normally not accustomed to. But
right.
What you got to do?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And we'll get some merch up for you guys soon. We just really haven't had any meetings on it yet, but we're sold out now. Or I think that Joseph said we had 2. I don't know if they've sold since then, but Paul, is there any places online? Obviously, Cannibal's merch is all over the place, but specific websites you want to plug for Cannibal, Umbilicus, and Heaven's Gate for their merch or band camps or whatever?
Well, the Cannibal, should be self-explanatory. I can't, it's so late for me. I don't even remember what the hell our merchant company name is right now, and the name of the website.
I'm sure you got multiple, so just
Well, we have our main company. I'm sure if you just go to cannibalcorpse.net, which is the Cannibal site there, that you'd be able to get all the information you need for any merch and all that. But yeah, for Umbilicus and for Heaven's Gate, obviously, since those bands are fairly new, I know we're both on Bandcamp, and I believe it's Umbilicus Band at bandcamp.com, and I'm not even sure. I think it's just Heaven's Gate at Bandcamp. A good question. Unfortunately, I don't fully know the answer to this. So many bands these days, so late, I don't even know what I'm talking about. No, but if you do a little bit of research, you can find out what Umbilicus is up to. We're about to actually release our debut record at the end of this month, and then the Heaven's Gate. A lot of stuff in the works with Heaven's Gate still. We got some live shows we're playing. We already played 2 shows, but I know we're in the process of getting our EP, which is, I guess call it an EP. It's only 5 songs we did. We hopefully get that released soon. I'm not sure when that's happening, but a little research and you guys can all find all this stuff out on the old.
Yeah, the internet's easy to use, guys. Come on.
Pretty much.
Hell yeah, dude. Well, yeah, this is awesome, dude. So how we do it on the show is my first question I always ask everybody is, what was the earliest memory you could think of in your life where music clicked with you? Like, it doesn't have to be metal. It's just you're a child, you heard something on the radio, your parents are jamming something in the house while you're tinkering with your toys, and something just clicked with you.
Well, good question. And you always have those distinct memories from back then, or I do anyways. I I guess who doesn't? They should, especially if you become a musician or you're a huge fan of music. I was listening to my parents' records. By no means were we a musical family, but my father had a lot of albums and 45s. And, when I was younger, I guess around maybe 8 years old, when you can start digging through all those and put them on the turntable and, figure out what's going on in the musical world. I mean, two things that come to mind from my earliest memories. I remember listening to the Beach Boys. My dad was a big Beach Boys fan, big Beatles, big Rolling Stones,
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know why I remember the Beach Boys kind of like the first band for some reason that I ended up that resonated with me a little bit. And then another band in particular, when I was playing as 45s, because the Beach Boys was an LP, but putting on the Kinks and hearing All Day All Night, or all, yeah, I think that's the name of the song, and You Really Got Me, those two songs, of course, we just that the sound of the guitar, just wow, it was different to me. It had that heaviness that you look back now and you're going, wow, the early stages of kind of what metal would become, I guess, or very hard rock. And I remember really being drawn to that, so those two in particular would be my first memory: the Kinks, 45s, and the Beach Boys.
Cool, dude. So you said 8 years old, and it sparked a little fire in you. Did you start digging more into the records, or how did you start your own journey in researching music?
Well, I guess I started off with his collection there. Like I said, those kinds of bands. And then I guess my next step up was just out of kind of, obviously pre-internet and all that kind of stuff. So where are you getting your information, where you're seeing stuff? You're going to the record stores, or you're getting a magazine or something like that. But of course, like every probably other male at my age at that time in life, Kiss was the band.
Was it more the image or the music?
It was both. I mean, I look back, and the image, of course, grabbed you. I mean, could it not, right? You're just fascinated by these guys and these characters. But the music was good too. It was good music, and I remember liking both. But I was a fanatic. I was a freak like anybody else back then in the late '70s. And I, it's hard to remember exactly how I got into it. My cousin, I have a younger sister, but I have an older cousin who's 2 years older than me, and spent a lot of time with him. And he kind of got me involved in a lot of music back then, being a couple of years older, of course, and he was heavily into all rock and roll and all that. But so I can't really remember fully what happened. Did I go to the music store, see the album? Did I get a magazine, because they're all over magazines at that point and everything? Or did he actually, turn me on to it? It's hard to fully remember, but I do remember buying. I do remember one of my first albums I bought on my own was Kiss Destroyer. Okay. I do remember that, and it was just the band that made me, freak out about music.
What age was that?
I guess I was around, a little after. I was around 9 years old, probably around 9, because I remember then Kiss playing in Buffalo, and it would have been in 77, 78. And I remember I couldn't go. I remember I think I was in 5th grade, and I remember just being a little too young, and I knew they were playing. I have these distinct memories of, remembering the paper, and the next day, like, what they would do reviews, and there was a picture of, Gene Simmons or whatever in the actual, in the newspaper, talking about Kiss playing and all that. And I remember going, man, I would have loved to go, but I wasn't like, wasn't like freaking out about it as much. But then my first concert, and I guess it was 79. So I was 10 and a half, almost 11 years old. And that was seeing Kiss Dynasty Tour.
So then your parents didn't really have too much resistance then, because I would think that the image would probably turn most parents off for a kid at 8, 9, 10 years old to,
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I mean, they kind of let me go with it, I guess, I mean,
that's killer.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I had great parents in that sense, where they supported me in so many ways in that way. Looking back, yeah, they could have easily shunned it, right? And said, oh my gosh, you can't be listening to this, or look at these images and all that. But I think they knew how passionate I was about it, and how much it meant to me, and they wanted me to be happy. And I was happy. I mean, my room was Kiss. I lived Kiss. And I'll never forget, on that, going to when we knew they were coming to tour in 79 for the Dynasty Tour. By then, yes, I'm well into it. I have to go see them now. Now I'm freaking out.
Right.
And I remember I was supposed to go to the concert with a friend of mine, a school friend of mine, and I guess I don't know if his older sister was going to take us or his cousin, somebody was going to take us, so my friend of mine. And at the last minute, that fell through, I remember. And I was so bummed. I was like, oh no, what am I going to do? And this is what happened. My parents knew how bummed I was. My mom, I remember we went and bought tickets. You'd have to go to this. I remember you had to go to the department store to buy tickets back then. It was a store in Buffalo called AM&A's, and I remember we had to go into AM&A's. We walked in, we bought tickets. We bought 4 tickets. I went with my mom, my dad, and my younger sister. They
Killer.
took me.
That's right.
A family outing.
It was unbelievable because I remember after that, they knew I was in my glory, and my parents didn't care. They just wanted me to be happy. And I'll never forget them talking about it after, going, yeah, there was we had a good time. I mean, it was a good show they put on. They didn't care about it at all, but they knew I would be happy, and they were entertained as well. So
any Halloweens you were with them for Halloween?
I never did that, actually.
Really?
I don't know why. I don't know why I never did that. I mean, I was that much of a fanatic about it, but I never went that way for some reason. Because I knew so many people did. I remember back then, right? Everybody's doing it, and I don't know why I never did, but man, I lived Kiss and I loved Kiss. And
so is that the main inspiration for wanting to play music too, right there?
Probably, I would think that's because I was so passionate about it. I remember just looking at somebody like Gene Simmons and just seeing them on stage, and you see the pictures and you go, wow, that's amazing. Wouldn't it be cool to be doing that, I guess, and that's still such a pipe dream at that point because, you're just fantasizing, totally fantasizing at that point. So, but that would have been, looking back, that was totally the start of it, of course.
So was drums was that your first instrument? Did you pick up a guitar, bass, anything first?
Yep, I was playing guitar first, actually. I think I was drawn more to guitar at that point. I wasn't like, oh, Peter Criss, that wasn't the guy. To me, it was more of Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley and Kiss. That's I was gravitating towards them more. I liked them all, but I think I liked guitar way more in the beginning. And actually, I started playing guitar when I was 12 years old. I remember wanting to play guitar. I wanted to take lessons and all that. But man, I remember wanting to rock out and wanting to have an electric guitar and make noise and all this. And my parents, they said, well, if you're going to take lessons, we're not buying you a guitar because we're not sure if if this is going to pan out or anything like that. We'll see how it goes. So you go to the local music store, you get a rented guitar that they're, and it's an acoustic. So I remember doing it for 6 months back when I was 12 years old. And I got pretty far. I look back at the music I played and was able to read, and I couldn't do that to save my life right now. It's like a foreign language. It's like Japanese to me. I look and I go, I was able to read this music. This is crazy.
Wow. I feel the same way, dude. I played piano for like a year, and I was reading the music, and now it's no.
You have to keep it going. You have to keep it. It's like working out. Like you're gonna lose your muscle.
It's not like riding a bike type deal where you can just jump back on it.
When you're that young, I think it was right. I look back on, man, I forgot that pretty quick, and I gave up on it because I couldn't rock out. I couldn't make the noise I wanted. I didn't want to play acoustic guitar. I wanted to really play electric, and I think if I would have had an electric, I might have kept it going. So I kind of fell to the wayside, and then that was said about 12, I guess, and then I really didn't I didn't pick up the drums till I was about 16, when I first got my first kit. So it was a few
what was going on in that 4 years then? Was it just ingesting music but not really?
Right. Yep. It was just ingesting music. I think I may have got a guitar a few years after that from my friend. I remember pre-band, now that I'm thinking back, that he had a guitar, an electric, and that I ended up getting it off of him. So I would have probably been maybe 15, maybe 16, maybe around the same time I got the drums, actually. Because the guitar was different. You can play that like in your bedroom, kind of quietly, of course, when you can guitar without an amp, or you can play your amps low and all this. And the drums were the drums. You're playing at full volume, at full bore, and you can't do it all the time, especially if you're in your parents' house.
Yeah.
Trying to play like I was. So I think a lot of it at that point up until then was absorbing, right? Just being into the music, loving the music.
Were you getting into the heavier stuff during that 4 years too?
Oh, of course. I mean, it was a constant kind of move up the ladder. I mean, when I grew up in that era, when you're talking about the late, from the 70s to the 80s, look at the big change, and then from the 80s to the 90s.
Right.
I mean, so when I'm getting into it at say 82, everything's changing by the day. You're
Right.
starting out in the early 80s when it's just Iron Maiden and Black Sabbath and Judas Priest, right? And then all of a sudden you got a year later Metallica comes into play, and then Slayer comes into play, and then now it's thrash metal with the Creator and Sodom and all these bands, and then everything was changing like by the minute. And
so you were familiar with all of that before you got your kit.
Yeah,
Okay.
because I got the kit when I was 16, and
what kind of kit was it?
It was a cheap. It was called a Kent, and I know they were made in Western New York.
Mm-hmm.
They were an old company, and I got an old kit. I mean, so I bought it in 80. I bought that in 84 maybe or something. And
I was born that year.
Well, that's when I got the kit, and the kit was probably from the 60s. It definitely was from the 60s. A Kent, it was an old school kit, but it was double bass. I remember having
Sweet.
double bass kit, 2 toms, floor tom, really crappy hardware and all that, but it was double bass, which I wanted.
Right.
I remember we paid $200 for it. Me and my mom went and got it in her Pinto. We actually fit this kit in my mom's Pinto.
Jesus, one trip, huh?
I know, right? Crazy. So that was the start of it, right? Of getting the drums, and in 80, I guess I said 84 around there. So
was it just you're saying your parents were open to you and your love for Kiss and music and stuff like that.
Yep.
Any resistance with the kit the first couple of months or anything?
Not at all. I mean, I think they wouldn't have bought it for me. They wouldn't have got me the kid. Oh no, like anything else but that. My cousin was playing drums at that time. The guy that got me into the music when when I was younger, and he had a drum kit. He was playing drums. I saw those. I mean, they were really cool about that. I mean, that was so great about my parents, just allowing me to kind of flourish or do what I wanted to do, and I was passionate wanting to play the drums. So when I went and got it with my mom, we set them up in our basement, and I was able to play, at reasonable hours, of course. They allowed me to do it. And I'm sure there was many a day and night of them just closing their ears and going, "Oh my gosh," but they put up with it, and then they put up with the early band practices, because of course, being the drummer, it was easier if you had practice, where the drums were. So we had those early practices pre-Cannibal. When I first started playing in bands, we'd have the practice in my basement there. And
I was going to ask you real quick. So what's the first song you got all the way through and you were just like, yes, I did it?
On drums? I remember, because you were saying about how we were already well into the music. So exactly, you're already into Slayer and Metallica, and now you're trying to play this stuff. And I never took lessons, and we're all just learning as we go. My friends that are playing with me. So I remember playing 2 songs in particular. I don't know which one came first, but Dethroned Emperor from Celtic Frost, and Pounding Metal by Exciter.
Nice.
Probably just because they were a little more simplistic, of course. We weren't tackle something a little crazier, that was maybe Slayer or Metallica. And then eventually we did, and you're playing like Seek and Destroy, because that's an easier song for than Metal Militia or something like that. Then the Slayer came a little bit after that. But yeah, Dethroned Emperor and Pounding Metal. Those were the 2.
Killer.
It is trippy to think real quick about like the jumps. Like you're talking about the 70s to 80s to 90s, like the huge jumps and leaps, because there was no, now there's like bands that are all the certain style or genre now. It's like it's kind of set now,
Yeah. Yep.
It's like back then there's like they're trying something completely different. Next year this band's doing something complete. It's like everything's they're just grabbing at everything, just trying anything they can, to change it up.
Imagine finding new styles of metal today. It's like we're just like a melting pot, taking 20% of this and 40% of that, and but now it's like or back then it was like, I've never heard anything like this before. And then it happens again the next day.
Exactly. And I feel very lucky and fortunate to have grown up with that. Not even grown up with it, but like growing with it. Just perfect time when you're just a teenager, just freaking on music. And then you're like, exactly the next day, what's this? Oh my God, holy crap. What's that? The next day, I mean, it was unbelievable. What an unbelievable time to be involved in that. And that, in part, of course, is why Cannibal's Cannibal, because, we were growing with that whole scene. And, when we're finally old enough and feel good enough, we're in our late teens. And here you are now in the late 80s where all those influences come into play, and we're kind of in the forefront, or right in the mix of this whole new genre of death metal, so to say. So man, how exciting and how amazing to be a part of.
Yeah,
really,
it sounds exciting, dude.
It was, man. It really was. I'm
so high
happy.
School bands, were there any serious high school bands that you had?
Well, I mean, my first band, it was Tyrant Sin, and we actually wasn't really a high school band. I mean, I guess we started forming right at the end of high school, playing and all that. But I don't think we really played live until just after maybe we graduated, or maybe we were senior year, somewhere around there, where we played one or two shows, like a VFW hall or whatever. There is old footage. I think we might have put it in our DVD, perhaps, of me and Barnes and Rousset playing in this band, one of our first shows ever. And we're playing Celtic Frost and, Accept, Balls to the Wall and things like that. But when it was about a year after, I guess, that I graduated in 86. So around 87 is when Tyrant Sin came into play. We ended up making 3 demos, and we were playing the Buffalo scene basically at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So that would have been, I would consider, more my first band, and the stepping stone to Cannibal, because if you know the background behind Tyrant Sin, well, I was in that with Rousset, and Barnes was in that in the last rendition, and we were playing the Buffalo circuit with another band named Beyond Death, whom Alex and Jack Owen were in, and
Mm-hmm.
both bands kind of fell apart at the same time, and that's how Cannibal kind of was formed, from the the ashes of both of those bands, basically. So so Tyrant Sin would have been the band, kicking around for a few years there prior to Cannibal.
So you said out of the ashes of those bands. So like, what you guys come together? What was the initial, goal with it? Like, what was your influences? What were you guys talking about? Like, what was your goal? What was your sound that you wanted to be?
Well, there you go. I mean, we're talking about earlier about just still finding our way and changing with the musical scope. When you listen to Tyrant Sin, and we put a couple demos out. Our last demo would have been in 88. And early 88. Cannibal was formed in late 88, and Tyrant Sin broke up in March of 88. And when you listen to the last demo of Tyrant Sin, you can kind of feel like the onset of maybe some Cannibal happening here,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And it's very thrashy, very crossover kind of thing. We were into the thrash and big into DRI and the Accused and all that. So those were kind of influencing us a lot, along with, of course, Sacrifice and Creator and Dark Angel and everything. And then Beyond Death, they were more influenced by, they sounded kind of like an SOD kind of a band, very crunchy and, a little bit more plotting like that. And when I'll never forget, right, well, our bass player quit in Tyrant Sin. And that's why, and we were looking for a bassist for the longest time, and it's never happened. And at that time, Beyond Death, well, they started out as a 3-piece, but they were a 4-piece at the end there. It was Jack and Alex and another guitar player, and then the drummer, actually Darren Pfeiffer, who ended up being in Goldfinger.
Wow.
He was the drummer in Beyond Death, and they wanted to move on from Darren. They were having a little bit of an issue with him personally, I guess. Everything's all fine at this point now, and Darren's such a great guy, and
mm-hmm.
There are no problems at all. But at that time, they wanted to, it was kind of, they were on the outs. So I remember it being, I think Alex might have called Rousset or Barnes, because they knew we were looking for a bass player. And at that time, they're kind of looking for a drummer, so it was like, hey, why don't we merge together here, since we're have needs of each other here. So it was like, oh, all right, cool, yeah, let's. And we knew each other from the scene, playing the shows. We didn't live near them, but we're getting together, playing in Buffalo. We know these guys, and we respect them and we like them. They like us. So yeah, sure, let's give it a shot. Why not? We all want to play here. And I remember the early Cannibal. When you just listen to the demo, when you listen to the demo, it's obviously different than what Cannibal became just 6 months later on the record. Because we didn't know what we were doing. We knew we wanted to be an aggressive thrash whatever band, right? And then what's this death metal? Well, we're just getting into it with bands like Obituary and Death, and then Morbid Angel just comes out, more Altars of Madness, which changes kind of a lot of the the mentality a little bit. But
Barnes was even not growling that much.
No,
no,
not on the demo. He's total like Millet. He's total mix between Millet from Creator and maybe Blaine from The Accused. I mean, that was what he was doing. And when we actually went in to record, well, there you go. The whole scope was changing and our attitude was changing by the minute, that we wanted to kind of step it up there and be more guttural in that way. So we didn't know what we were doing, other than we just want to play. We're trying to find our way, I guess. I always like to say this about Cannibal and the early Cannibal is, man, we got lucky in the sense that, we got signed when we did and so quickly and all that kind of thing, because maybe this early Cannibal would never even exist on record, in a sense, you know what I'm saying, on CD, on vinyl, on cassette. A lot of bands, I mean, some bands are around for what, 5, 6, 7, 8 years before maybe anything happens, they put out a release. Well, they've had plenty of time to grow and to, evolve and all that. We didn't have any evolving. It was, this is what you got, here, we're just a brand new band. Well, here's the stuff we're putting out. This is it, and so I always look at, we came into our own, say, with the Bleeding in '94, and and that was only what, 4 years after we formed. So I always try to like to think, oh, hypothetically, what if we didn't make it till then? Maybe the Bleeding's our first record or something like that, or maybe even after that. And maybe those songs that like that were eaten, butchered at birth, and all that, they end up falling to the wayside because you're always trying to better your music. You know how that goes.
Right.
Maybe the light of day, So.
Where did the influence come to change the singing to growling, or to like guttural shit?
I think it was just the whole like I was saying, we're coming out of, say, '88. Well, what's happening in death metal for the most part? Not a lot. You got Scream Bloody Gore, you got maybe the first Obituary, which is still, that's what, 88, 89. So we're not fully there yet with any of the guttural singing. So then and I remember, I want to remember that we were already established. We're a band. We're going to maybe be recording Eaten Back to Life, and then Altars comes out, from Morbid Angel. And you're going, my God, this is a game changer in the sense of everything, right? And, so I think as we were going from, like I said, early to mid '88 to '89 into when we record about mid '89 to '90, so much has changed in the scope of the heavy music that now, this is what we want to do. This is getting to be more acceptable. This is what this is what's heavy to us, and what's heavy to, I guess, a lot of people is having the more guttural vocal. So that's
and also the blast beats too. So who was the first blast beat? Well, I mean, a lot of the crossover stuff was getting real close to the blast beat.
Close, right, but not full on. And that was the same thing. Pete, when Altars comes out, of course, doing it with Terrorizer, but is that really in the death metal sense? When you hear it on Altars of Madness, you're just like, okay, what the hell's going on? This guy is just taking it to the next level. And I remember, if you listen on Eaten Back to Life, I believe Put Them to Death, I think in the middle of Put Them to Death, I'm like doing the shortest blast there, like really, like 2 seconds, and other than that, there's no blast on Eaten Back to Life, right? As it wasn't, we weren't influenced by that yet. We weren't, thinking that. Of course, it comes into play on Butchered at Birth, where there's blast all over the place. But I do remember after we did Eaten, and then we're starting to write new material, of course. Now we're heavily into Morbid Angel. The blast is becoming more prominent in some bands, especially that one, of course. But I remember sitting down and doing a blast beat for the first time at practice, and I was doing my interpretation of Pete, you know, and it wasn't, of course it's not, it's just my own interpretation. I didn't sit there and study what he was doing. What is he doing? I got to do what he's doing. It was like, okay, I hear what he's doing, of course, but I'll never forget just sitting down on the kit and go, okay, blast, blah, blah. And that's what came out of me. I mean, it was just such a natural thing that's how I still blast to this day. And
yeah,
that
I was going to say that's what we call the Cannibal blast now.
I was going to say, everyone. It's the
exactly.
Cannibal blast.
Yeah. And that was me just interpreting Pete's blast, but without even thinking, just going and doing it.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, and that's how I blast, and that's how I've been blasting, and that was it. So kind of weird, you know, how that came about, man.
And what's even crazy is hearing how fast the trajectory from the demo up until the bleeding, and you guys are already in Ace Ventura. You know, it's like from that 4 years,
yeah,
dude.
before even that movie, before the album came out.
I know, right? How the hell? You know,
you got to give us a little bit on that real quick. Like, how did that happen? Was it Jim Carrey who was like, we got to get this band in here, or how did that work?
Yeah, I mean, I know it was documented, him Jim being on, I think it was like Arsenio Hall back then,
right,
at talk show, and I know he was talking about I think he was
Napalm Death.
Napalm.
Yeah, a lot of Napalm Death, and he thought it was intriguing and it was interesting and all this.
By the way, in that clip, you're like, Jim Carrey could be a death metal vocalist, dude.
Oh, I know. He's doing great, isn't he? Yeah. So from what we remember of it, or what I remember is just he wanted us in the movie. You know, I don't know if he wanted Napalm. I did hear somebody told me recently that I think he might have wanted Napalm, which would make sense if that's what he's talking about. He was, you know, but I don't know what happened with that. I'd have to ask those guys. You know, I have to ask Barney and Shane. You know, hey, did you guys ever get an offer? Did you turn that down or whatever? I don't even know if that. How that happened, but all I know in our sense is, okay, well, he finds it intriguing. I guess he finds death metal and all this kind of interesting. So we got a call from Metal Blade at that time. We're still living in Buffalo, and you know, we get a call saying, hey, we got a call from the Jim Carrey's people. They were, you know, making a movie. He wants you to be in this movie, and we're like, what the hell? All right, you know, why not? This sounds fun. You know, it was interesting because I remember, you know, of course, we were big fans of In Living Color at that time. Thought Jim was so funny and
greatest sketch comedy on the planet, dude.
We're amazing. We're all into comedy as much as we were into horror and all that, of course, back then. And we actually had to turn the movie down. You know, we had obligations to go to Europe, I remember, and they said, hey, we want to be in this movie. And, you know, at first we were a little reluctant too, because, man, we don't want to be made to look silly. We you know, we're taking our art here seriously. Okay. Think we're funny or tongue in cheek or dark humor, whatever you think about us, we're obviously very serious about what we do here. And we don't want to be made light of or made fun of or mocked or anything of that nature. So we're a little worried at that at first, but then I think once we were reassured that you know, why not? Let's just give it a chance. But then I remember us having to turn it down initially because of the timing. We had a tour booked in Europe, and I think they said, hey, it's got to be this time, and we're like, oh man, we want to do it, but we can't. You know, we were totally, and still are, the kind of a band that we're, you know, hey, we're obligated, we made a plan, we, you know, we're sticking to that, you know. So we said, man, thanks, but no thanks, we can't, you know. And then they turned around going, hey, well, we'll reschedule shooting, we'll move shooting around your schedule.
Wow.
And we're like, all right, well, hey, if you guys are willing to do that, that's amazing. Well, of course, you know. So that's what ended up happening, and then we flew down.
You did the Europe tour first, and then came back and did it after the tour.
Yeah, Yeah, it would have been after that then, right? Because that would have been in the way, so it would have to have been after. I'm almost positive it was after, and it was only 4 days. We were only shooting for 2 days. We were only down there for 4 days. We flew into Miami. It was all done on location there, and like I said, we're still living in Buffalo, so we flew down to Miami. There the first day, just hanging out. The next 2 days, we were on the set filming, and then the next day, I think we were still there. We went home, but
could you remember how many takes you guys had to play Hammer Smash Face?
It was a few. It was a
Yeah.
few because it wasn't really like us. I mean, you're getting the inner workings then of a movie,
yeah.
which we were obviously fans of movies, but we were never involved in it. So it was, of course, very interesting to see the inner workings. And a lot of it is, hurry up and wait kind of a thing. And we're sitting on the set, all day for to do our stuff, but you have to do everything around it. A lot of it I remember was the scenes where Jim's like out in the crowd talking and all that. I mean, all right, we're supposed to be playing and the fans are supposed to be going, crazy to the music and all that, but everything had to be silent for the dialogue. So they would play them, all right, play back, and we'd start playing. We're of course faking it, right? And then they would stop everything. So we'd have to keep pretending we're playing. The fans had to pretend that they're listening to us, which we're not. And then Jim would be doing his dialogue in the back. And if he had his takes, if he did his takes quick, then everything's good. But if he's messing up his lines or anything like that, then, the longer it takes. And I remember that a few times where he was just, he'd mess up and then he'd start, going off on a tangent. Everyone would laugh. And then, you got to retake. And so, okay, do it again.
So at that part where he's walking around, is it completely silent? Like, is it just completely silent?
Yeah.
And it's like only dialogue?
Right. Yep. Completely.
Whoa.
It was so weird because
so weird.
Yeah, I mean, of course you're hearing like the footsteps. They couldn't stop, but everyone's trying to slam around. You hear the pounding of feet a little bit, but everything else was like, as quiet as it can be for him to do the dialogue, and that was so bizarre. We were, wow, this is weird.
Did you have to air drum and stuff?
Yeah, weird enough. We're air drumming to just the music, but when the music stops and you got to keep air drumming and air playing to nothing, then it's like, wow, that's.
Did you ever accidentally hit a cymbal like, oh shit?
I don't think I did. I can't remember. I hope I didn't.
Jim turns around. He's all,
That's all we need to do is get kicked off the set, because I hit a cymbal, right? So
there's that deleted scene too where he's up on stage with you guys, and that's badass, dude.
Takes the vocals over.
That was fun, man. I mean, yeah, I remember when we did all that filming, and we were there for those 2 days. You do all that filming, and then when you go see the actual theatrical release, like everybody else, you don't know what's going to happen. I remember going to the movie and seeing the scene and going, okay, we're in there, and then you're waiting for that other scene to happen, and it never came. So you're like, oh, okay, well, this is cool. We're just happy to be in this movie. I mean, things, I guess, end up on the cutting room floor and all that. And, I just remember going, man, that was some funny stuff. Too bad it didn't make it until about a year later, 2 years later, when it made the network debut. And then when it's on TV, and then you're going, oh my God, holy there's the scene. There's him on stage. I mean, cool. That was amazing that they had that for that. So I'm glad it did see the light of day, because that's some funny stuff, right?
It's funny you talk about Kiss, though. You talk about Kiss and stuff, and we've had this podcast for a year and a half or however long, and I can't tell you how many people have brought up that scene as their Kiss. That was when
it's the first time I ever heard death metal, because
I was already my brother was into death metal, so I already knew death metal. But my brother was all cannibaled out, had he was fucking long sleeve bleeding shirt from '94 or whatever. So I knew about it, but I was it was always so bizarre to me, the vocals, because
the movie came out in '93 or something, right?
No, he gave me his old bleeding shirt from the tour. It's got the picture of the United States on the back, and it's got holes in it and stuff. Yep, definitely.
Yep.
But yeah, we've had that over and over again where they're then I was listening to this, and then I saw Ace Ventura.
Right.
And then it just went to what's this all about? And then because like you said, stepping up the ladder, that's kind of what I always say too. It's you gotta take the steps, and that was such a necessary step for so much music that we hear nowadays,
It was.
Mhm.
What a big stepping stone. No, you're right. I mean, what a big deal it was. I mean, Cannibal was doing well, obviously at that point. When we got Tombs just out, and the
Mhm.
Bleeding about to come out, we're doing fairly well on our own here. We're out touring international and all that. But then the movie comes out, and that just takes it to a whole nother level because so many millions of people saw that movie. So
Mhm.
what you're saying there, how many times people came up to us and said, man, I've never heard of Cannibal until the movie, or that's how I got into death metal because of the
Mhm.
movie. And man, it's an amazing thing. So what a stepping stone it was. I mean, yeah, who would have thought that it would have been that big of a deal?
Right. You guys didn't even realize the opportunity you guys were getting at that time.
Not anything, not at all, man, not at all. Who would have thought, right?
I wonder if Jim Carrey never fucking asked you guys. I wonder like where death metal would be today. I actually would think that it possibly. I mean, I think it would still be around maybe, but
It would definitely be around, but it would,
that catapulted like you said, millions and millions. Like I saw it with my dad when I was a little kid, like
right.
in a theater. Like
Yeah.
we went. It was like an event to go see it.
Right.
And yeah, if that didn't happen, I mean, I feel like that changed the whole like paved landscape for all these people's brains. Like, what is death metal, or what's this band or whatever? And it just kind of like switched a switch, and then they went on a different trajectory. It like changed their course,
Right.
And for so many people.
Yep, it
So,
did.
yeah.
The what ifs? Who knows? Looking back, right? Would it be what it is today? You would think it would, hopefully, but I mean, regardless, the movie did so much, at that point. So we'll just leave it at that, and glad it happened for sure.
Right. I was just going to say that it would definitely, it was already happening at that time. So no matter what, death metal would have kept going, but it was just a catapult for it a little bit to get into the mainstream
Totally
sphere.
Yep.
So then after the Bleeding, things change. Well, the movie happens, and then you guys put the Bleeding out.
Right.
So how was like touring that record versus anything before that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're just getting bigger as we go here. I mean, a lot of it maybe is because of the movie, but I think we also feel that we're just getting better as a band. We're coming in. Arguably, like I kind of mentioned before, the Bleeding, I think, is the start of the modern day Cannibal sound, where we started coming into our own as songwriters and musicians and all that kind of thing. So, and then it was our biggest seller, of course. I mean, obviously, we're riding on the coattails of Tomb, and that was a great record for us with Hammer and all that. And then the Bleeding comes out, and it's our biggest seller at that point. And the songs I think are just more honed and all those things. So it was that we're going up the ladder. We're moving up the going up the rungs there. We're just moving forward here ever so slightly, and the Bleeding was taking us to that next level. So like I said, in part maybe because of the movie, but also I think that we're writing better material at this point.
Right.
I got a question about, so you obviously, out of all death metal bands in the world, you have the best song names by far, obviously. So how did you guys come up with this? I mean, do you guys like sit around and like yeah, and you like come and like laugh like that's the best fucking name I've ever, like, because some of them are so great. It's like fucks with a knife and shit. I mean,
no, we had Jarzenbeck on, and he was Ron Jarzenbeck, and he was talking about here he was like teaching a kid a lesson or something, and this is back in the day, and
back in the early 90s. Yeah,
and he was like, this little kid came in with Eating Back to Life. He's all, I want to learn bloody chunks. I'm like, and Ron was like, what? Your parents let you, like, what's going on here? Like,
That's
like
funny.
it was super funny. Yeah, super funny.
I'll have to bring that up to Ron next time we see him.
Yeah, dude.
But yeah, I mean, I know it's crazy to think. I mean, we got some time. We are all very creative, and I guess, and we just brainstorm and try to come up with over the top titles. And some of them, of course, you're going to maybe get like a chuckle just because it's so crazy over the top. I mean, like I was saying earlier, we're very serious. We don't want to ever write anything or say anything that we think is funny. Albeit I can see maybe people finding things funny or finding the dark humor in things and going, that's just so ridiculous that you have to laugh, and it's over the top crazy, like something like fucked with a knife, or or entrails ripped from a virgin's cunt and things
That
like
was
that.
scary to me. I was like,
that
scared.
wasn't funny to me.
That wasn't
in the
funny at all.
beginning.
I was
Yeah.
like, Jesus.
Almost scary, I mean, that's why nothing was funny to us. It was definitely more, in the way of cringe worthy. If we're gonna look at a title and go, "Ugh, that's disgusting," well, then I guess that's what we need.
That's the
Yeah,
reaction
yeah.
you're looking for. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Going for, luckily, like I said, we had everybody brainstorming and everybody contributing, and we just try to outdo each other and come up with some sick stuff. I mean, I think the whole thing with Cannibal in general was trying to outdo anything previous that we knew about, anything that was influenced by us, or I mean that we were influenced by, I should say. We just wanted to take it to the next level, and we had opportunity as being a band, so why not go for it? And we're Cannibal Corpse, let's make it as extreme as possible. So we were going to do it in every regard.
We say it so many times to compare death metal as like horror movies on CD or record and all that stuff, but I did get that same feeling of like sitting and watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre and the anxious uncomfortability of certain scenes. That's the same kind of thing I was getting from listening to Cannibal and reading the lyrics and reading the song titles and all that stuff. So that's why Joel and I were both like actually scared in the beginning of listening to Cannibal, because it was giving me that same feeling,
Right. Well, that's it. That's what we're going for. We always like to say we're short horror stories put to music.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nice.
And that's the vibe we're going for. You want it to be dark in all regards. And
what kind of horror films were you guys watching at the time?
just all the ones that were out at that point. I mean, Fulci was big, and Dario Argento films and all of that, but just the basics, really the ones that started it all, not started it all, but the big ones like in the early 80s, like, of course, Halloween and The Shining and The Exorcist and, those kind of movies. But yeah, then there was some that were over the top. I mean, like, Evil Dead or anything, Dario Argento or what, and I can't even think of these titles now. I remember what was one that was one of our Gates of Hell. That was a great one. It's a big one. I remember we watched that one a lot.
I always kind of attributed like Dead Alive, even though there is some humor, but Dead Alive, the gory aspects of that movie have always made me think of Cannibal as visual,
As much as it's very humorous, there's some crazy visuals going on. That's over the top with horror,
Right.
So that was a big one for us too,
So you don't have to go into too much detail about it, but like obviously from the Bleeding to Vile, Barnes is gone, Corpse Grinder's in. So like, you want to touch on that a little bit as to what was going on with that? Barnes was done, or were you guys done? What was the deal?
Yeah, I mean, it was time to move on. I mean, we were just getting fed up with a lot of things with him, and time to move on, time to better the band, we felt, and that's why we made the change. We felt it was getting a little stale, and we needed somebody that was really gonna take the music to the next level, and we felt we weren't getting that. So.
Right.
We kicked Barnes out and we got George in.
So did you guys gig with Monstrosity and stuff, and that's how you guys got to know George?
We saw him play. I don't think we ever played with Monstrosity up at that point, but we're living in Florida now. We moved to Florida in '94, and Lee is, Monstrosity were based out of Florida too, out of Tampa.
Mm-hmm.
George wasn't living in Tampa at the time. He was still living in Baltimore. But of course he's fronting Monstrosity, and if they're going to play, he's got to come down and sing. So I remember we went and saw Monstrosity play live, maybe just before we got him in the band or what have you. And it was, I think that might have been the first time I saw him. And, it was just seeing George up there. It was just, incredible. He's an incredible front man, just the way he, everything he did up there. And he sounded great. I mean, and we were fans, of course, of Imperial Doom. Hearing that record, hearing George's vocal and all that and the music, we were just, we were huge fans of that
Was
record.
he already windmilling like he does back then?
Yeah, totally. That's why when you saw him live back then, he was just like a beast up there, right? Windmilling and just, just going nuts. And it was amazing. It was great to see the energy. But so it was all those factors. But of course, we wanted somebody that was going to be able to take the vocals to the next level, and we knew George could do that. I mean, I remember when we made the change, when we decided to kick Barnes out, George was our choice. It was like George it has to be the singer in Cannibal Corpse. If not, we don't have a plan B here.
Definitely.
It was him or we don't know what we're gonna do.
And what an album for him! His first album, dude. Like Vile is that's a beast of a record, dude.
That's another page turn for you guys, like kind of the heavier tuned to B flat or whatever, kind of like lower,
Yep. No, I mean, and that was it. When I remember when we were writing the songs, because of course, the story. Barnes, was on, started the session with Vile, which was supposed to be Created to Kill, and when we heard his vocals in the studio, and of course, 6 of those songs are available now. We put them on our box set. They ended up making, their way through the, however they got out. But those, what you hear Barnes's versions of Devoured by Vermin and all that, that's what he wanted that was his final version. Albeit the music wasn't done. There was no solos. It wasn't mixed. But up to that point, that's what he was going to leave vocally. And man, we were just dejected. We were really dejected by that. I mean, we felt we were taking Cannibal to the next level musically and all that. And there's my daughter in the background.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, hi. You're on candid camera. So when we heard his vocals, man, we were just all let down. We felt we had some, the best music we ever wrote, and we felt that Barnes's vocals were detracting from these songs. So we knew George would be the man to fit right in, to belt out the vocals that we need to, right off the bat.
Right off the bat, dude.
You hear Devoured to start with the scream. I mean, it's like,
God, it just punches you right in the face, dude.
So that's what we needed. That's what we wanted. Yeah. We felt it was getting stagnant and redundant, and we needed that kick, to boost us forward.
Well, I mean, with you're talking about like you're musically progressing, and like the vocals are kind of staying the same, and like I feel like with the Bleeding, like Barnes works for sure. Right. Obviously, what I mean? But then like Vile and stuff comes along, it's like, okay, we're leveling up, dude. Like, we need everything to kind of like take a step up. We can't do the same vocals over the, this new style of music, new style of death metal that we're creating. It's like a lower, heavier, fucking chunkier, riffier, like all the things, we're leveling up. We need some on the other side too.
Totally true. And that's why we had to make that change. It just wasn't working out. So, it had to happen, and we're glad it did.
So, how was touring Vile? Like, was there tons of tours or?
Yeah, it was some good ones. We went to, I remember we went to Japan for the first time, but that was the big tour we had. I mean, not that it was that huge, but I guess it was pretty huge, opening for the Misfits and Anthrax.
Oh, wow.
It was Misfits, Anthrax, and us. And then I believe Life of Agony ended up coming on for a little bit. That was a long tour. It was like a 2-month tour, but that was like one of our, our first big tour to be out, albeit it's not the original Misfits and all that. And Anthrax were, chugging along at that point. But still, it was a huge tour for us to be a part of that, and it was great. So that was, I think that was George's, I think that might've been the first tour actually, for him. But I'm trying to think what else we did. I mean, I know we did some other touring too. It was starting to come into play from the Bleeding up, where the touring is more prominent. So I'm sure we did the States a couple of times, and probably did Europe, a couple of times, and then time to move on to start writing a record. But the touring was happening as we progressed here, of course.
Definitely.
Yeah, you guys
actually had go ahead. I was going to say about like, I was going to backtrack a little bit, because now you're talking about touring and stuff, bringing Cynic on the road. We just had Paul Masvidal on kind of a few weeks ago. Like, what, because that was such like a fucking curveball for people, obviously, because that's like a jazz kind of oriented prog band. What was the, I mean, mindset of what did you guys think was going to happen with like bringing such a different style on? Obviously, you guys are musicians and you love, and like me, like love crazy musicians and what's coming new. And that's one band that was like maybe a little ahead of its time, or a lot ahead of its time for like what it was doing. And so yeah, talk about the process of bringing Cynic on.
Yeah, I remember, we were friends with them way back. I remember we played with them. I think we played a show back in like '90. They came to Buffalo and played. I mean, and they were, of course, an amazing band, a very, very heavy band. Throughout their career, of course, like you said, very proggy, very much ahead of their time. And I think they became that a little bit more over the years than the early Cynic. So I can't remember if it was just, we knew they were doing well and we wanted to help them out. We wanted them on the road because we knew them guys very well. I think maybe if you ask them, I don't know if Paul talked about it or whatever, but I think it was a little difficult tour for them because, they're playing primarily to a death metal audience.
Yeah.
We had Sinister, I believe, on that tour.
Okay.
Who I think it was. So you're dealing with, two full on death metal bands and then them. And, some nights might have been a little more rough than others, with the audiences. It's unfortunate because exactly they're, incredible bands. So, it's tough to fully remember how that fully came about. If it was just, through the record label or more just us wanting to bring them along because, we knew they were a great band and, we just wanted to do something a little bit different at that time. So, but either way, what an amazing tour it was, really. I mean, we shared the bus with them. We had a lot of fun. We had so much fun, on that run. And, one that, we'll never forget. And then you just think back and, gosh, losing Paul. Or losing, both Sean's.
Both Sean's, yeah.
Yeah, and it's hard to think about, but
right.
Glad we were able to do that. And,
I mean, making the connection with losing people. Obviously, I'm wearing the Trevor Sternad shirt, but you guys were like the original Trevor Sternad. He would bring out shit he liked. You'd be like, I like this, so we'll bring it out. And you guys did that, back in the day. You'd be like, I'm into this band. We're gonna help him out. Let's bring him out. And and Severed Savior. We got the guys in the fucking chat right now. But like certain bands you guys have brought out that you're like, you guys are sick. No one knows about you. What the fuck? We'll bring you out.
That's exactly what I wanted to bring up. Like it's really cool thing that Cannibal being at the level that they're at and still staying true to the scene and seeing the quality of what's going on in the underground and giving the opportunities to so many different unique leader bands, but they were still doing it back then because we're talking about Cynic and how new they were. And I'm sure there's plenty of other examples of tours before and after that Cynic one where it catapulted a few different acts that you guys had brought out with you, and respect for that, dude. And I know that Alex is a big fan of all the unique leader stuff, and he might be the main guy behind getting those bands on the tours and stuff. But I think my first time seeing Cannibal was the Deeds of Flesh and Cephalic Carnage tour. That was epic at Slim's in San Francisco, dude.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was talking earlier. Before the pod. I was telling Paul like we were talking with Derek Roddy like episodes back about like the first time when I saw him play at the Whiskey in LA in 2000 when they did the first Conquering the Throne tour, and we saw you guys play. It was the Bloodthirst tour, I think is what it was. Yeah. And I was 17. It's like 2000, and like I was my first death metal show, and I was like scared of you guys, dude. Like I was like, whoa, you guys came out. I was just like, that's the real shit. And Hate Eternal. I mean, all the bands were great that day, all the bands, but dude, it was just like, I was like, it was so like, you guys just like, you have that aura that's just like, man, it's so cool. I'm so stoked for
and it still does it to you today. I mean, I'm fast forwarding, but I just caught you guys on your last tour, and it still it goes right to my core when I see you guys, dude.
Dude. Good to hear.
And having Rutan in there is just a big plus,
I know.
Unbelievable. No, great to have. of course, man. Taking it to the next level with having that guy in the band, of course. So
he's such it's like the perfect. That's the corpse grinder on guitar. You know what I mean? That's like the
right.
Yeah.
It was kind of the same. It was the exact same thing that happened when we made the change. It was like, well, Eric's the man, and if Eric isn't the man, what are we going to do here?
Yeah.
And he knew it all worked out, but man, he was, it's just the perfect fit, of course. I'm just so fortunate to have him a part of the band now.
Side note, it'd be cool if you put in a good word for us to get him on here. I'd love to talk to Eric, dude.
I can try.
And Alex too.
He's so busy. I mean, those guys, they're so busy doing so much stuff. Eric, of course, does so many other things, and he's just
studio.
Doesn't stop, right? Like I all I can do is put that word out, and it happen for.
That's all we're asking. Definitely.
No, I toured with Hate Eternal, and like Eric was one of the most genuine humans. Like every day, he would like, Joel, let's go smoke a joint together. Like he was very like. Just like engaging, let's hang out and let's talk, and he was very genuine. I was like,
I just remember him always with like a beanie on in the back, and just like playing guitar, like hanging out. He's the nicest dude ever.
Actually, the Eric Rutan story that actually changed my life, and I've maybe even told on this podcast, was we were on tour with Black Dahlia and Hate Eternal, and he had like 104 temperature, like he was like dying in the back, like it was in Texas somewhere, and Dallas, Texas, and he was like. Literally, he's all, Joel, wake me up when like we're supposed to like start getting ready. He was like sitting there covered in rags, like sweating his ass off, and he was like, I was like worried, like almost hospital, have to call an ambulance worried about him, and woke him up. He got up. He's just like, he's like so in pain, like the most in pain I've seen someone about to go on stage. He goes on stage and just does his normal shit, like it's normal. But like every time in between songs, he would turn around, just be like he'd just be like in this crazy pain. He was like, "You can't miss these shows, man. We got to play." He was like so adamant. I'm like, man, you look exactly the same as you did as the shows where you were healthy, and now you're like on death's door, and you're like giving the same thing to everyone. But obviously, when you turn your back, he has to like be a human for a second and like drink water and like try to survive.
Quick Eric story for me is not personal, but just seeing him with Morbid, he broke a string like towards, I don't know, maybe the middle, more towards the like beginning middle of a song. He had it restrung and tuned and finished the song, dude. Like, that's how fucking quick he is with like, he's just he's the epitome of a professional musician, dude.
He is. You're right. No, he is totally 100%, man. 100%.
Yeah. He's just kind of like I was watching the last time we saw them. Anthony was there. The last show we saw with you guys playing in Berkeley, and just like I was looking at him, I'm like, that guy. I just whispered to Eddie from Suicide Silence was next to me, and I was like, that guy's death metal. That's just death metal. I have nothing else to say. Like I've no other like.
Death metal,
yeah. No, he just encapsulates it and looks it and feels it and just like, and that's one thing about Corpse Grinder I always love too, is like he's not running around the stage and like he's not going, come on, what are you doing, blah blah. He's just like he just sits there and does this thing, and I'm just like, this is the sickest fucking thing I've ever seen. He doesn't. The simplicity of it makes it way better than just like running around, just because he's just got this confidence that you're like, I'm in. It's just a total live encapsulating thing.
So I have a two-part question for you, Paul. One, tell us about the biggest crowd that you were like, holy shit. And then tell us about a train wreck where you guys fucked up in a song.
Well, let's see. Probably, let me think. The biggest one, well, I mean, we've done Wacken, of course, a few times.
Yeah.
And playing the main stage.
What is that, like 80,000 people, 100,000 people?
I think they cap at like 80,000. And I remember the one year, you just look out and you just see this sea of people, and it's so surreal because it's not people anymore. It's just this wave of like heads that, I mean, you can't even describe it. I mean, it's just so crazy. You just, as far as you can see, that's people. And, that's just so weird because you're just not used to that. Of course, we're used to our modest amount of people, and that's that. So when you're playing in front of that many people, it's just so bizarre, so surreal. It just doesn't even seem real. So I think Wacken would have been it, where we played in front of the most. And I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, one comes into mind about a train. I think we were in. Oh God, I want to say we were in Ecuador. It was a few years back, and I remember something happened during I Come Blood. We were playing I Come Blood, and there's the break like right in the beginning, where I think Pat, Pat was still in the band, and Pat, like he broke a string or something happened where we ended up stopping because something threw me off or something. And that it's that whole, you never stop for any reason. For some reason, something threw me off because I didn't hear him. Because you're so expecting to hear that, and when you don't, you're just immediately like, what the hell, And I remember we ended up stopping, and I believe we stopped and we started the song again, I think. Which was very embarrassing, of course. I mean, I think it all went over fairly well, but as a band, whenever anything like that happens, it's not good.
It's
never
defeating. Yeah.
Yeah, you never want to start over or anything of that nature. But
right.
I remember it being one of those when we were done, it was just like, oh my God, we're just all, totally upset about that. Going, what the hell happened? We got to make sure this never happens again. It was just horrible.
Well, if you hear nothing going on anymore, it's like, could be one of those like videos that I've seen, just like the singer's like, stop, stop, stop. You know what I mean? Like you don't know, you don't hear anything anymore. You're like, what the fuck? Like, you know what I mean?
Well, yeah. Yeah. And if you're in a weird zone, you just don't know. And sometimes it just throws you off, like, I don't know why it shouldn't, because you should always be, I've kind of trained myself more, because I think a lot of it might've been me, like, why did I stop? I shouldn't have stopped. And then I do, but I shouldn't have. So I think I've learned, and I have, and I might've took that, instance into consideration of going, okay, you got to be prepared for anything,
right,
yeah, out or something. You just got to keep focused on what you're doing, whether what anybody else is doing,
Well, I mean, you could be the drummer of Cannibal Corpse on top of the world, but you still sometimes need a jolt like that to better yourself as an artist, because we're all trying to progress. We don't want to get stagnant, you know?
Human, we make mistakes, and definitely I'll admit that. I don't look at myself as being the best drummer in the world or anything of that nature, so you always got to just try to better yourself and whatever it takes. And sometimes, yeah, you're totally right. It takes some things like that to happen that, you make you a better drummer and make you, realize, yeah, you just got to keep learning and keep moving forward. Right.
Totally. So I want to fast forward a little bit just to the Wretched Spawn, because that was one of the albums for me that, like,
I was going to ask about Gallery of Suicide.
Oh, okay. What do you got on the gallery real quick?
Talk about that a little bit.
Go for it.
I mean, it was funny because I was like driving around today and yesterday, actually this week, but like just listening to Cannibal. And there was actually a thing, we had this group chat like going on about listening to albums like early in COVID, and I listened to every Cannibal album. I remember like in a week I went through every single one. It was pretty funny because I had heard so many of them, but there was a bunch I haven't really like heard the whole thing, like a bunch of new ones. I love them all. Like I really love that Skeletal one.
Skeletal,
dude, that fucking album is insane, dude.
Pretty dark record.
Yeah, that's a really good one. Yeah, but yeah, Gallery of Suicide is like one of the greatest masterpieces of an album. I love that album. And Joel, I think we've talked about this a bunch, but that's the one with the what's the song called? The instrumental.
From Skin to Liquid.
Yeah.
Well, that's what got me. It was the end of Live Cannibalism, because I bought the VHS tape for Live Cannibalism as a kid.
That's right.
And I was like,
for the youngins, VHS is a tape that had reels on it. And,
VHS. All the
with a VCR or something.
It had reels.
If you get fined by Blockbuster if you didn't rewind it. So
yeah.
But no, it was at the very end, because I always was like, I was in the I was climbing the rungs, and there was one rung that was death metal that I was like, I know I need to get to that rung, but like the vocals for me were just like, I just don't. I was a kid. I'm like, I don't understand it. And my dad also too, because we, my stepbrother or my half brother. Andres was like fucking all death metal, like, and we were just, my dad would be in my ear being like, fuck this shit, like, because he was a musician too. He's like into Primus and Frank Zappa and all that kind of stuff. So he's like, from a different
Bass player,
generation,
right? He was bass player, right?
Yeah, and just for a different generation. And he was just like, what the hell? You know, my brother's walking around with fucking Tomb of the Mutilated shirts on, like walking into my mom's lawyer's, or she was a receptionist, but walking into the office with like 2 corpses, like, you know, like performing oral sex that are. And as a kid, I was like, what the fuck? And you just walk around freely, like, what? You know, because that was crazy back then. That was like unheard of to walk. It's like
now you got Kim Kardashian wearing that shit or whatever.
Well, no, I mean, yeah, I know, right? Jesus. Well, I mean, like the equivalent now would be like, if you want to like put it in shock value, it'd be like just walking around with like porn on your like, just like people are like,
really
whoa,
is.
like what, you know what I mean? It's like to put it in perspective for someone,
but way cooler.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Well, obviously, but at the time it was like, you know, people were wearing like a Metallica shirt with like a, you know, holding the bells or the weights and stuff, and they weren't like, there was nothing crazy, but that like shocked everyone. But sick, dude. I had a question, but I forgot. So
I think we're talking about the from Skin to Liquid about like.
Oh yeah. So
so
that was the song that ushered me in, because it was like I would watch all of like, and then about a year later I learned I would come home from school and I played all of Live Cannibalism all the way through on guitar. That was like my part of my. I learned every song. You remember Mike Kimball? Remember Mike Kimball from he was in Dying Fetus for a while. Yep. He like made this website that had all of your guys' tabs that was like fucking almost dead on. So I found that, and like I just learned all this, like every day was like, that was like my cycle. It was like come home, like play all of Live Cannibalism. But at the time, before that, I was basically just like, whoa, this is scary. And then I heard fucking From Skin to Liquid, and I'm like, okay, well, all right. Well, that's all right. That's so good. Like,
sold. Yeah.
And it's like literally changed my life. That song completely changed my life and ushered me into the heavier stuff. It's like, okay, dude, there's one Slayer
like
and like,
super
you know,
heavy, dude. It's just so heavy.
It is
about a 7-string. Yeah,
because you guys, each of your albums is unique. It's like, first of all, you like stick with the Cannibal thing, and it's like reliable. You don't have a bad album, which is like insane, and like so many great albums, and like. But like each album has its own vibe and like, and you know, theme and like feel and sound. Like, so what was the feeling or the thought behind, you know, Gallery of Suicide? We're talking about.
I think every album we've done, and you hit the nail on the head. It was always just, you know, you're trying to do something you didn't do on the last record or the last song, albeit it's going to be Cannibal no matter what you do. So I don't think we ever sat down and had any like, oh well, we got to do this, we got to do that, we got to do that. You know, this is what this the next album needs to be or whatever. It just so happens to be the time frame that you're working with, and this is what comes out of you. If anything, you're going, okay, well, we never had an instrumental like plodding along like that. Okay, so that'd be kind of cool to do, you know, or a song like, I remember when we first did a song like, you know, Sentenced to Burn, you know, where we never had a song like that, where it's kind of like that mid-pace kind of a song. Everything is always a lot more aggressive sounding and fast, and, you know, the blast beats or the skanks or whatever. So, you know, you might consciously do something like that, but you know, I guess it's just always retaining, like you said, the Cannibal sound, but yet doing something, maybe just something a little different than you've done in the past. So I'm sure that was our mentality around Gallery after, you know, Vile, right? You got Vile, and then you go, okay, well, you know, you listen to Vile, and it's definitely a different album than Gallery. And Gallery is maybe a lot more diverse in many ways because of the variety of tempos, all that kind of thing, you know. So I think that's just what we try to do as we move forward.
It seems to me that you guys are going off of feel, and that's so fucking cool that you guys, like, there isn't like, you just said, it's like, we didn't really say this, we need to do this, and that. It's just like, we're going off of how we feel as a unit, wanting to progress, but still, you know, retaining this Cannibal vibe throughout your whole discography. And I think that is one of the reasons why you guys have been so consistent, and you guys have continued to progress. And you've, like Casey said, you guys have never had a bad album, because you harnessed something, and now you keep like growing that thing. It's not like we're going to keep this in a box. We're going to grow it by just adding this and this and that to this thing. And it keeps growing as a sphere throughout the whole thing.
I totally agree, man. That's exactly how I would explain it, you know.
Yeah, I mean, that's why you guys are the biggest fucking death metal band on the planet, dude. Like, that's exactly why. You guys never, ever strayed from what you guys wanted to be, what you guys wanted to be accepted as.
Yep.
Plus, you guys progressed as artists.
Right.
And now I wanted to get to my thing where I was just fast forwarding because I know we're taking up a bunch of your time. I'm sorry if you're super tired, dude, but
that's been fun, man. I'm all right.
All right, good. So we had a couple of albums in between, but I do want to just fast forward to the Wretched Spawn because the Wretched Spawn was this another album that was just like boom for me again. I'm like, oh shit, now Cannibal's fucking technical. You know, I mean, it had always had a technical aspect.
Gore Obsessed was super technical.
But I'm just saying, like, for me personally, when
he's a vocalist.
When I heard Wretched Spawn, I was like, oh shit, dude. Now they're starting to play with time signatures a lot more. You know, was Gore Obsessed like that too?
Yeah, I guess maybe a little bit. I mean, you know, I guess everyone's going to have their interpretations and feelings on the records like you're having. And, you know, one person's going to say exactly this album's that is more technical than that one or this one. I mean, I don't even know anymore at this point, you know. It's hard to remember really looking back. I mean, it's funny because half the records were, you know, that we've done, and I haven't listened to, you know, the whole album in years. Say the Wretched Spawn, you know, I listened to this because we play it live now, and I'm thinking, my gosh, when's the last time I even listened to that or listened to the record for that matter? You know, I'd have to go back and do what everybody else does and sit and listen.
I know. Well, you got so much fucking.
And go, what the hell have we done? You know,
you guys have such an extensive discography. Like even us too. If we were to put out that many albums, we would have that same response too. You know, like
right.
You do something and then you move forward because that's what an artist does.
Right. And that's what we do. You know, you don't want to go backwards. I mean, of course, you're always going to be loving everything you've done and be proud of everything you put out. But yes, I have not listened to these records. There's many songs that I know if I heard right now, I'd have to listen and go, wow, who's that? Oh, wait, that's us. You know, what's going on? Oh, my God, holy shit. I have no idea.
I mean,
that song is 20 years, you know, and that
makes sense.
I would have.
I mean, how many Cannibal Corpse songs are there?
I mean, you know, out of 15 records, what, you know, we got to obviously, if you're talking about 10 at least per record,
at least over 150, probably.
Yeah, right.
Like
150 to 200, something like that.
Yeah,
probably.
Yeah, that's it.
So what was the hardest record recording session you personally have had?
Man, you know, it got easier, which was good. I mean, for some reason, I hate. I've always hated the studio. You know, I hated being under the microscope and feeling like, you know, it's now or never. You know, if you're not doing it, you're wasting time and money and all that. I like, you know, to me, I'd rather. I like the vibe of playing live way more than recording. But you know, like I said, it started getting better, I guess, around the Wretched, no, not the Wretched Spawn, Skeletal Domain, Evisceration Plague started getting a little easier. Maybe that album might have been a tough one, Evisceration Plague, you know, and I think that one was tough. Yeah, I would say Evisceration Plague because that's when we incorporated the click track. So when I remember Alex going, hey, you know, before we started writing the songs for Evisceration, he was like, you know, I'd really love to incorporate the click track and write all the songs to the click. I feel it's going to, you know, make us that much more tighter and, you know, it'll help in so many regards and all that. And he was right. But there was that transitional period. I never played to the click. I never wrote to the click. I never wanted to accept the click. You know, I felt it was, you know, not needed or not wanted, shunned upon in my by me personally. So when I gave into that and said, okay, let's do this, it was that adjustment period. I didn't have enough time. I mean, I needed more time to really absorb the click, and so when I look at when we recorded Evisceration, I would say, it's a funny album. Really listen to Evisceration again. You know what you're going to do when you hear Evisceration and you totally analyze it. You're going to go, wow, there's no drum fills on this record at all. There are no fills. There's no rolls.
Oh wow.
Dude, check it out. Listen, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's a great record, I mean, it's all beats, great songs and all that. But I was not fully there on the click. I could not feel comfortable enough to be able to go, you know what, I can do this, I can do that fill, I can do that roll. I was playing almost as basic as I can play because I was adjusting to that click track. It's a tight record. It's a great record.
Let me just add something that's 20 years basically of you not doing the click in Cannibal right there.
Yep.
And then you change your ways. And I respect the shit out of you for going 2 decades in Cannibal Corpse with no click.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what I think early Cannibal needed to be. That if we'd be a different band if we stay incorporated that on. Of course, looking back now, you'd go, okay, maybe as a drummer, as a musician, as a songwriter, it's needed and it's helpful, and I love it now. I love the click. But of course, it'd be like me saying, well, if I took lessons back then and we played to a click, we'd be a different band probably. I'd be a different drummer for that matter. So we had those evolution, that kind of evolving thing with Cannibal like that, to not have it and then to go that route, but not having as much time as I needed. I guess it really, looking back, you're going, okay, we're writing these songs. Okay, well, the way we work, you got 6 months to write, and practice, and then you're already into the recording process, and you got to get that record out, so you go on the road. That's the way we do things. So I look back and go, and I would have been more like, hey, I need more time, and I probably would have needed another year or two to technically feel it, because I didn't feel it till the next record. And I can't remember what the next record was, but was it Torture?
Let's see. It is Torture. You're right.
Torture. And by Torture, and when you listen to Torture, then you're going, oh, you hear it in my drumming, where I felt better around the click. I was like, hey, I'm getting this. Well, I've had a couple of years to absorb that and to play with it now. So when we're starting to write for Torture and then we go to record, I felt so much more comfortable. Like, I got this now. I can play around the click, where I just, I felt just so, I couldn't do that with Evisceration. So, it was a weird record to record. I think that was a little more tedious than anything else because of that transition, the Evisceration Plague. And then things got better, because once I start getting into the click and grasping it and being able to go, okay, I got this. Well, then, it made my life easier. It made writing easier. It made playing easier. It made everything easier. And, like I said, you look back and you go, man, something I probably should have done years ago, but it is what it is. And I'm glad we use it now, of course. So
again, I mean, and I personally think that it's not necessarily a progression or not, but it still is something that made you take another step forward as an artist, and again, not stay stagnant. Now it's a new thing. You're faced with a new challenge, and the consistency of Cannibal showed, you're saying this one album is where I was still learning it, but you guys still stayed consistent through it. And actually, it's wearing your heart on your sleeve as a drummer. Like, here's me as somebody who's still learning, just learning new things as an artist. But I still got an album out, and I still got another album out after that, and another album out after that.
Yeah, you're right.
The consistency is crazy, dude. And oh, man, I had something that I wanted to go off of on there. Me and Joel are both losing ourselves on this one, because I'm just so excited to have you on here, dude. And
so we got our old friend David on here from our old band Odious Mortem, and David is asking a question. What's your favorite Cannibal album, Paul? Do you have a favorite?
Would be Eaten Back to Life, man. I mean,
hell yeah.
Look back and you go, man, it's the most, it's your first record, and then it's just the most raw record. It's just the most from the heart, more than I think, that first one where you just go in and then how we're talking about these progressions and everything. Well, that's another thing. You go in and you record Eating Back to Life. You get it done in 10 days. There's no editing or anything of that nature, what you can do now. And, you spend months and, things are done differently. Everybody knows that, for the most part, and the way you record. So I think Eaton's the most special to me for many reasons. Albeit, like I said, the first record, but I think it was just the most raw, the most primal, the most right when we're just at the forefront of we're a band and we're recording our first record. My God, you're just so excited more than ever because you've never done it before. So,
Yep.
so it's always going to go down as my favorite, for that reason.
Right, dude. You're young, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed.
All that stuff. As much as I do love the latter albums, man, I think our best stuff is our latter albums, of course, in material wise and all that. But but for aggression and just everything like we just talked about, Eaton would be it.
We were talking. I've been talking to Casey recently. I talk to him every week, but I'm just saying, like recently, we were talking about how your emotional state during the recording sessions can be branded into it as you listen to your own albums, so there's probably plenty of, like you were saying, the Evisceration Plague album may not sit well with you because of how you were feeling during that session. And then you're saying Eating Back to Life and how you were feeling back then. And it is weird as somebody who records that like you can be transported back to your mental state as you were recording that when you listen to that music, that just trips me out that it, like, we have one connection that's different than anybody else that listens to our music because we can remember all the bullshit that we were going through during all that,
Totally. Yeah, it's something, isn't it?
It is. So what was I was going to say that was the question that I was going to get to when I was just I just forgot was, what's the longest you've been in the studio doing drums?
Let's see. That's usually got it done fairly quick. I mean, I think just recently, since we've had more time, we always tried to go quicker, because of budgeting. You want to get things done. We're not obviously a band that has an endless budget and you can just take forever to make a record. We're on time restraints and constraints and all this kind of thing. So I always remember we'd always try to get a couple songs done, and then drums took 4 or 5 days of recording at most or whatever. But just recently, because we have more time and more money to work in the studio, it was kind of like, well, why kill ourselves here? Let's just make it right. Let's concentrate on maybe one song a day, and that's what we've done on the last couple of records. Balance Unimagined. It was, let's just get one done. Let's budget it out for, hey, if we get one done, we're good. If we can go do more than one, okay, great. But if not, let's just go shoot for one. Why kill yourself mentally and physically that way? Let's just do it that way. So I think the latter albums have taken longer just because, like I said, we have that the time, we have the opportunity to do it instead of just busting it all out and maybe not getting it as best as we can. Why not? So the last couple of records would have taken the longest, and right, not that we didn't know the material or I wasn't ready. It was just let's not kill ourselves.
Let's breathe a little bit here, guys.
Breathe. Let's breathe, man. Let's breathe. Right, we can
totally,
do it.
Dude.
We couldn't do it.
Nice.
I know we've spent an hour and a half on Cannibal, but you have a couple new projects. I think that we should talk about those just a little bit before we get out of here.
Sure.
So which one came first, Heaven's Gate or Umbilicus?
Umbilicus came first. I mean,
okay.
It was it was a long time coming. Actually, a little backstory with Umbilicus, back about 20 years ago or so. It was around 2000 when Jack Owen was still in the band. We actually did a little project called Path of Man, and it was me and him and our friend Vernon Blake, who actually is the bass player in Umbilicus. But Jack and I are for our love of just rock and roll, and 70s style rock and roll. And we felt, man, we just, it'd be nice to take a break, Cannibal's been just plugging along forever, and we're just blasting away doing death metal, and
Right.
why not just break up the monotony? Like, let's write some songs and have some fun here.
Totally.
So we did. We ended up playing 2 shows in Tampa. I remember back, like I said, it would have been around 2000, 2001, somewhere around there. And we wrote a bunch of songs. It was all originals. I remember we did play one Grand Funk song. That was our only cover song. But we just made some kind of crappy demos. We didn't really, concentrate on recording. Our problem was we never had a good singer. We went through a few singers. And ironically enough, the singer that sang both of the shows for us that we played was James Rivera of Hellstar. And what an amazing vocalist. He's just such a great metal vocalist, albeit we didn't want really a metal vocalist. We were trying to be a little bit more of the 70s ilk there. And James is a great vocalist, great guy. I mean, he did an awesome job. But I think we kind of fell apart because of our, it just wasn't working out. We couldn't find a vocalist, and then, we just kind of gave up on that. So that was, like I said, about 20 years ago. There you go. A couple shows under our belt. We wrote some songs. That's it. So fast forward to right after we recorded Violence Unimagined, knowing that was the pandemic just hit, because we went into the studio in April, and the pandemic hits in March around that time. So luckily it didn't affect anything with Cannibal and the whole recording process with Violence Unimagined, but it affected, of course, our touring schedule and the release of the record. So So when we were done, when I remember being done with the drums, and that would have been in April, and you're going, okay, we're in the swing of this now a couple of months, and everything, of course, everyone remembers the uncertainty around this, but we knew we weren't going to be releasing, I guess, our record when we wanted to, and we weren't going to be hitting the road when we wanted to. That much we did kind of know. So at that point, I got with my buddy Vern, who plays bass in Umbilicus, who was playing in the side project. He's a good friend of mine, living in Florida here, and I said, hey man, you want to revisit this project? You want to start jamming some of those old songs? I mean, now's the time. I mean, I have the time, and we're not getting any younger here, and it'd be fun to do. Why not, right? So we started playing some of the old songs that we had with Jack, and Jack doesn't live here in Florida anymore. He moved to Illinois. And we got a hold of him thinking, well, I don't know if he'd want to be revisiting this. He kind of gave up on it. He didn't seem to want to do it. And then he's living in Illinois. So we said, let's get another guitar player if we really want to make this serious. And when we did, we got a guy who, funny enough, ended up being, now he's in Deicide, Taylor Nordberg.
Oh, shit.
Yep, he plays guitar in Deicide right now. So he's in the Absence, he's in Inhuman Condition, and but we didn't know. We knew of Taylor. I never met him at this point, and we knew him through some mutual friends. And we found that he has a love of what we were doing, of like this kind of 70s 80s rock and roll. So Taylor learned an old song that we wrote with Jack and came to practice, and we met with him and we jammed, and it was just like kind of magical right off the bat. And he was like, dude, yeah, this is awesome, let's do this. So that's how Umbilicus was formed, right? So it had been probably around May, June of 20 there, when the pandemic hit, and we started working on some more originals, and this time around though had it in our back of my head especially, and I think Vern, because we're older now, and Taylor's being the young blood in the band, we were like, let's do something with this. Let's write some songs. Let's record. Let's see what happens, because we only live once. We're not going to probably revisit this in another 20 years when we're 70 years old at this point. The time. So we wrote 10 songs. We got a great vocalist that we came across, and that was it. So it was a couple of years in the making here, but Umbilicus is finally seeing the light of day. We released 3 songs already to this point. Like I said, the album comes out at the end of this month, on September 30th. You can get it through Bandcamp. It's going to be on Listenable Insanity, which is Taylor and Jeremy Kling's record label that they released the Inhuman Condition records on. Their band that they got going, and they're doing fairly well for themselves on that. We just we wanted to leave a mark here and have fun and see what happens. I mean, if things happen with Umbilicus, great. If they don't, hey, we're having a great time writing some cool songs. And
so when you play that stuff, does it take you back to the late 70s, early 80s we were talking about in the beginning?
Dude, totally. I mean, and I am so pumped to play stuff like that. It's completely mindset, of course, than playing Cannibal or death metal. I'm just sitting back, you're grooving out, you're playing for songs, you're not playing, exactly, man. It's all by feel. It's just so much fun.
It's crazy how you get through your 20s, you do all your shit, and then you get into your 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever, and you just start to love nostalgia,
Dude, yeah, I mean, it's you do, and I've actually, like you said, loved it for a little while here since we did that project. But I guess what ends up happening is, I mean, I never thought I would probably be doing this with a band, but everything fell into place at the right time. Like with the pandemic, we said not getting any younger here. We're all getting up in age. Myself and Vern, the bass player, and you're going, man, now's the time, to do something like.
Now's the time to build the DeLorean and go back in time, dude.
So we did, and man, we're excited. So we're excited for the release of this record, and we'll see what happens. And hopefully we can get some shows, maybe a tour. Who knows? We got to work around my band, and now Taylor's in Deicide and all that, and but we'll see what happens. So that's been a lot of fun, man, and we're looking forward to that. So then how
I just saw him play, dude.
Oh, cool.
A couple weeks or like last week, it was like it's so great. It was
they're out there, and he's doing
the Legion tour. Oh, he's doing double duty. Yeah, that guy shreds, man.
Dude, he's a great guitar player.
He's so good.
Holy man, what an amazing talent in so many ways. I mean, he drew the album cover for us. He's produced the record. He recorded the record. He wrote most of the songs. I mean, he is just a talent, man. He is an amazing guy, and we're very, very happy. I'm very proud that he's been a part of the Umbilicus, because if it wasn't for him, it would have been tough going here. So very fortunate to have him involved. The same with our singer Brian Stevenson, man. He just took Umbilicus to another level, having an amazing vocalist, which is what we needed, for this kind of music. And I think the songs of we're happy. We're proud of them. I think people are going to dig them. We hope. And if they don't, oh well. But we're having fun doing it. And
exactly, that's what it's all about first, dude.
Yeah, all it's about. And if it ends tomorrow, hey man, we wrote a record and it's here to stay. And that's important.
You froze it in time, dude.
That's what we wanted to do, man. So that's what's happening with Umbilicus. And then I'm thinking, man, that's crazy. I'm, in two bands, and then all of a sudden Tony from Municipal's calling me up going, hey man, you want to form, I'd love to do a project, and well, yeah, all right. Kind of the same mentality. Well, you only live once, and why the heck not? So that came about probably about a year ago now, I guess it was, with Heaven's Gate. Tony moved back to St. Petersburg, Florida here after living in Richmond for a long time. And that's where he's from here. And, he got a hold of me about a year and a half ago, something maybe around there, going, hey, I would love to form a project with you and, get a couple of guys and we'll start a new band. And, I'm like, that sounds fun. Why the heck not? So it finally came to light about a year ago. Like I said, now, we got a great guitar player, Mike, from the band Warthog, and this guy, bass player Jeff from, God, why can't I think of the name of his band? He's going to kill me here. I can't play too.
It's because it's like 1 o'clock in the morning for you or some shit.
It's getting late for me here,
No, it's not. What am I talking about?
No, but it's past my bedtime.
It is definitely, dude. But
yeah,
thank you so much, dude.
No problem. So anyways, we wrote some songs for that. We're kind of doing the same thing with the Umbilicus did. Hey, let's, record and see what happens. So we recorded 5 songs. I know we already released one of those songs, and more to come here for the release. But the thing was funny with Heaven's Gate is we already played 2 shows without even having any music out, which is but that's that kind of music. It's that kind of style of band. It's that total crossover, thrashy punk,
right.
That old school. And that's why I'm loving this band too, because it's bringing me back to my kind of thrash roots as well. Back when this band, Heaven's Gate, kind of reminds me of the early days of Cannibal or Tyrant Sin, where it's just all fresh and new, and you're just, everything's simple and just aggressive, and and not you're just very old school. So I'm loving it.
And it brings me to like this feeling of like going to our local venue and seeing the opening band, and you're like, oh dude, that shit was fucking sick, and then you go online and there's nothing. It's like that's the only way you can see it is live, dude.
Yeah, well, that's kind of cool. I mean, it was a cool way to do it, because the two shows we played were the most underground, well, especially the one in St. Pete. We played about a month and a half ago. Excuse me. One in St. Petersburg. Our first show was in Gainesville, Florida. We were just released the one song on Bandcamp. That was it. So you had one song out there and nobody knows anything else. So we're playing with Asshole Parade, band from Gainesville.
Nice name.
Yeah, they've been around for years, and you got a few other bands, but it's that punk rock mentality. Every band's 15, 20 minutes. Our set was 20 minutes. We're direct support. We played 20 minutes. We played 7 songs. So we had 6 originals and a cover, and that's it. And nobody knows our material, but man, I'll tell you, it was the most fun I ever had. Most fun I've had in 25 years. I mean,
dude,
especially with the show in St. Petersburg. Go check it out. If you go to YouTube, put in Heaven's Gate, St. Petersburg, there's a lot of footage of that show, and it's the most bootleg underground kind of scenario, like something you would have done when you're just starting out as a kid. And it was the most fun that we ever had, man. I tell you, it was amazing. Playing in a parking lot, like on a rickety old stage with a couple of lights, no PA, all that kind of stuff. I mean, it was awesome, dude. The fans loved it. And
I think that like the nostalgia thing, I'm going to keep going back to it. It's just like, it feels so good to go back to the beginnings of, I mean, your career is much more extensive than mine, but I've still been doing this for 20 years, so to go back to the feelings that we had back then were just fresh and just hungry, know?
Yep.
And to feel that, to be able to access that again later on in life, it's a treat. It's a big treat.
It is. You're totally right, man. And that's what this has been. Both bands have been that, but you hit the nail on the head. Exactly. What a treat it is. And, just to relive that nostalgia, relive that feeling, those early kind of feelings that you just can't have anymore with.
You remind yourself why you're in it in the first place, like why we started this long journey that we've been on. It's only like distant memories and pictures in your mind, and you can only vaguely touch on how you felt until you do something like this. Then it brings you right back.
Totally, dude. And on that note, Jeff, the name of your band's Horsewhip. I remember that,
Yes, he got it, dude.
So, but no, you're totally right. I mean, and it's been amazing. It's been a lot of fun for having both bands, and we'll see where Heaven's Gate goes too. I mean, we got 2 shows coming up actually at the end of the month here. We're playing a show in Tampa, and then we're playing a show in Daytona for indie merch. Like a big thing going out there in Daytona. So that's going to be a little more of a high profile gig for us. But either way, man, both bands were having fun. Umbilicus having fun. Heaven's Gate having a blast. And, we'll see what happens with both of those. But, keep an eye out, because either way, things are happening, which is cool.
Hell yeah, dude. And just to give break the fourth wall here, we lost Joel earlier. His power literally went out.
The whole neighborhood, there's like sirens going off. It's like,
dude.
Yeah, he's like, I'll build a fire and try to come back on. Well, use your phone. You can't. And so.
We miss you, Joel.
Unforeseen natural circumstances, natural disaster, whatever.
It
I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, sucks.
But dude, Paul, this has been a great time, dude. I had a blast with you tonight. I hope you did too with us.
Totally, dude.
Oh, I appreciate it, man. Had a lot of fun. Thanks for having me, and it was fun talking, all this old school stuff. And you guys were great, and it was a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, we may be a little bit younger than you, but we know what you're talking about. We're 90s kids, dude.
Hey,
Yeah.
as we're right along there, everything, I feel it. I know you guys know your stuff, and that's awesome, man.
Hell yeah, dude. That's what's up. Well,
We're super honored to have you on, man. It was just,
really, no, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Dude.
A big pleasure, dude. And I hope to catch you out on the road again soon, dude.
Coming up November, the tour starts in November in the States here in Canada, so I'm sure we'll be out in
Great.
your guys' neck of the woods here in one of those shows. So yeah, it'd be nice to to hook up wherever
dude,
you.
Let's stay in touch,
Sounds
dude.
great.
I would definitely I would love to come hang out and clink a beer with you, brother.
Well, let's do it. No, we'll keep in touch and we'll make that happen.
Hell yeah, dude. Well, once again, I never really do this, dude, but like and subscribe our shit on YouTube, all that stuff. If you're not a Twitch guy, come on, or gal, come back and sign up to Twitch too. You could be hanging out with us right now, a couple bananas in the background. But yeah, dude. And Paul, thank you again. Umbilicus, Heaven's Gate, and of course, guys, Cannibal Corpse, dude. Get out on the internet, find all that stuff. Yes, dude. And we'll see you next week. battleforgecoffee.com. Go get that fixed. Paul is gonna go sleep now because he burned off all that coffee he drank before.
I'll be snoring in probably about 5 minutes,
dude. Yeah. Hey, but thank you for giving us this big
thanks
chunk,
again,
dude.
Paul. That was awesome, man.
You're a legend, dude. You're the first blast beat I ever heard. You're the first death metal album I ever bought. Eaten Back to Life. Boom. All right, you guys have a great night, everybody. 7G's just popped in for the last second. What up? All right, I love you guys. We'll see you guys next week.
Thanks for having me, guys. Take care.
Rock on, dude.
Hell yeah, dude.
Bye, guys.